Welcome to the E-commerce Leaders Series, the podcast dedicated to helping founders and business leaders navigate the future of online retail with AI. I'm your host, Eric Bidinger, co-founder and CEO of Luca. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Robbert van der Ende, the CEO at Max Guitar, a leader in the retailing of high-end and vintage guitars in Holland for sure, Europe maybe, even the world?
Well, we try, but we try to stay modest, obviously. But we're always working on improving our reach, obviously.
Fantastic. Well, Robbert, thank you very much for being here. Before we dive into our main topic, could you please give our listeners a brief introduction to yourself, your background, and what Max Guitars does?
Okay, yeah, well, basically, I'm a guitar lover. I've been a guitar lover since I was very young, pressed with my nose against the showcase windows of every store around here. In the time that we still had a lot of music stores here and everywhere, because the number obviously has declined sharply. I've started this business, well, with a different name before in 1984, and then had a little break around 97, then started again in 2004 until now. First chain of stores was named Feedback, which was like a general music store. But I since I'm a guitar lover, I don't have any affection for synths or stuff like that, so I decided to start again and just do guitars and just sell the stuff that I really love.
Fantastic. So 22-year journey so far under this iteration.
Yeah, correct. That's my 23rd.
And could you tell us a little bit about how you sell your product, the split between your physical stores and your online presence?
Yeah, well, as we all know, at least most of us know that online business without physical presence is hard, and the other way around is impossible. So you have to have a brick and mortar presence to make sure that people trust you, that they can always come back for service and questions and complaints or whatever it is that moves them at that point. So that works really well for us. And our main market is Western Europe, with some exceptions to United States, Japan, Dubai, India, that kind of. But that's really not the main business. It's when you have like special stuff or vintage stuff, then you get a lot of demand from these countries because it's getting rare everywhere, all these vintage items.
That's fascinating. Thank you. And so building on this, as the company has grown, what's been the biggest operational bottleneck you've personally encountered when it comes to the amount of data that the business generates and how you're bombarded by these dashboards and reports and PDFs and emails and Excel spreadsheets?
Well, it's a fine line. You're always balancing between keeping things personal, because when you sell high-end tickets, it's impossible. I mean, in my book, it's impossible to do that without personal contact, because it demands a high level of trust from both sides. People need to know that you're knowledgeable. So a lot of these things you can obviously find in on the internet. Keeping things personal and still making sure you handle all that data and all that information well just needs two things. Well, of course, knowledge, but also make sure that you have the right staff around you that can. For instance, I'm not an IT wizard. We have two guys here that are, and they are also musicians, so they can actually couple this knowledge with the practical knowledge that you use and that you have to make sure that people or that you understand what people want.
Sure.
On a personal level.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we have 5 people working on these things. Of course, they're not just working on these things, but they're multifunctional. So we have an IT guy, we have photography and video that also does some data handling,
Mhm.
and we have one guy who's just, like types everything in. He doesn't have to know. He knows a lot, but he doesn't have to know.
Mhm.
And and we have a guy handling things like market sites, reverb, and all these kinds of things.
Interesting. So from the outside in, someone who doesn't know your industry very well, is it fair to say that running your business well, in addition to making your customers happy, in a way, having the right inventory at the right time? Like how do you manage that?
Well, retail is always that. Retail, whatever retail business you run, you need to, of course, not overstock, not understock. You have the right stuff and make sure that you get rid of it in the right amount of time. And we have the luck that we are not into, or not so much into, electronics that have to be, let's say, that are very sensitive to being replaced by newer versions. So if you have an old guitar, it's always going to be great, and it's even improving as time goes by, and also increasing value most of the time. So, that's the good thing about our business. And we try to couple things like new developments, like digital developments, to like old school guitars and amps that, of course, has its own story when it comes to how many people are playing guitar, because that is, in fact, declining worldwide. It's a whole different story. Hence the decline of the number of music stores. So only if you have the right balance between online and brick and mortar, and if you have the right stuff, and if you have the right image, that I think, at least we try to have the right image, then you can be successful. If you don't specialize, you're dead.
Right. And thank you for this. And today, could you describe a little bit the process that you're currently using to manage this inventory, in terms of, is it all gut feel? Is it data driven? What tools are you currently using? Is it frustrating? Is it not frustrating? If you could shed some light on that, please.
Well, I mean, everything is always frustrating to a certain extent, that you want to improve, and you always run into something, like small obstacles, large obstacles. So a big part of it is gut feeling. So you have to know what is hot and what is not, and what you have to listen to your customers. You have to listen to what they want. For instance, in the last 10 years, there's a surge in demand for used instruments, for a number of reasons. One of them is that there are more than 100 million guitars in the world already, and more are being built every day. So the market, to some extent, is quite full, and also the bigger companies like Gibson and Fender are really noticing that, and they're suffering from it, because to a certain extent they are their own biggest competitor, simply because go online and you will find 10 million used Strats or Les Pauls or whatever. So you have to also account for that in your inventory. So make sure that you have a good balance. We used to have a balance of 10% roughly used or pre-owned items, but now it's more like 30%, simply because the demand is there. It's also a very good investment in most cases. But yeah, it's I would say it's mostly listening to what people want.
That's always good advice.
Yeah.
So many e-commerce leaders that we speak to struggle to grow without constantly increasing their team size. For you, what's the biggest challenge you faced in trying to scale Max Guitars while maintaining some form of operational coherence?
Well, exactly what you said before. It's more or less the super flow of information that you're getting. So on one hand, from your customers, 20, 30 years ago, it was like you have a phone and you have a shop. These were the only two ways that you could get your leads. And people come into the store, they buy stuff. There was no returning stuff. It was very easy. I mean, I had a shop back then as well. It was very much more, maintainable. Now you have all kinds of ways that demands and questions come to you. Social media, well, obviously, you have WhatsApp, email, phone, physical presence in the store. So there's a lot of information coming, but you have to be clever, get the right people, which is also sort of a distillation process, because you get people working for you. They either do their job well or don't, so you replace them. Maybe you have to shift the packet of tasks that you give them, because some people are very good at one thing and not so good at the other, and you have to sort of mix and match, because we still have a small team of about 12 people. Of half of them are full-time and half of them are part-time. And also the clever use of AI. So you can obviously grow your workforce, but if you grow your workforce, you also grow your problems, because every worker comes with his own, let's say, positive sides and negative sides, and people getting ill, I think we have incorporated and are incorporating things like AI very well, and it saves me personally a lot of time a day. Really a lot of time.
That's fantastic. What a nice segue. That was going to be my next question.
Okay.
Which is if you could wave a magic wand today and solve any problem related to how you're implementing AI into your day-to-day, what would that be and why?
Well, we are waving that wand because we have a guy, Jack Goodman, who is, Jack Woodman, I made a mistake. He's from Russia. He's a genius when it comes to actually matching the practice of things to the theoretical side of things, because in theory you can make AI do everything. The only thing is how to do that and what to do. So obviously for myself, it helps me to make press releases. It helps me to make listings for the website, and obviously also for the guys. But he does more things. So he uses graphic programs, or I'm not sure what names they have for graphical content, like banners and images. He has these applications that sort of grab product pictures from the supplier to use on our own website. It updates the stock for dropshipped items. Obviously, we have like a few thousand items on the website, but not all of them are, let's say, actually physically here. Maybe 10% is not physically here, and then it says online only. The AI manages that whole thing. And obviously for the website, we have now 4 languages, which is not exceptional, but AI manages that totally, because we used to have translation programs, but they were actually very bad, because there's a lot of jargon in the music world, or in the musical instrument world, and you get all kinds of funny translation when you don't know that jargon. And obviously a lot of these programs didn't know the jargon. But now with AI, we get perfect or near perfect translations. It helps us export items to third-party platforms, like people who actually, I'm not sure what the name is again, but affiliates, I think, affiliate programs. And it helps obviously finding specs and generate descriptions for new items, as I said. And then SEO, AI is very important there. It just gives us advice about what to do and what not to do. So it gives us analysis and generates meta tags, all these kinds of things. But again, I'm not the expert. This list was not made by me. It was made by my by my Russian guy. But I know of it. So he manages most of these things, apart from the website, the text and everything. I supervise that, and we have 2 guys just typing it. But it's very, very, and there are some plans as well, because when it comes to to all the information you get, there is so much you can never actually handle everything. So it's if you don't watch out, you get this FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. I think it's more important to keep in mind that we want to be personal. We want to react as fast as we can within reason, and not focus too much on things that you're missing, because you will always be missing things.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a fascinating use case. It's actually very interesting to see how clearly you're an early adopter of those productivity tools. It's quite interesting to see that it's, if I understand correctly, at the moment, it's kind of tailored to writing. So it's copy for catalogs, it's copy for distribution, it's helping on the SEO as well. It's very focused on copywriting and generally helping you just advertise yourself in writing to the outside world.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of it, but still, all the things I mentioned are quite. It's moving towards that. So, for instance, also we're experimenting now with the chatbot, which I'm actually personally never a fan of. So I gave them the instruction to only use that or start using it if it is actually contributing, because I myself, when I see there is a chatbot which is AI generated, I already get irritated a little bit. You have to make sure that when you use it, it actually contributes, and you can switch to a human chat person quite easily.
Yeah. Oh, you mean on the customer support side? Yeah.
But also like a smart search, if you give people suggestions without having to actually in the back office put all these possible items in a list. AI can actually generate smart searches for. So it's more than just text. Obviously, it started with text, and when I have to make an emailing, I use AI, but the prompts have to be very good. If it's like it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't compose a good prompt, and for instance cut a lot of the generic bullshit and window dressing, then we made a mistake last week about somebody posted something and it was very elaborate, and actually people actually see through that. So we had to quickly correct that, because mistakes are always made, but we're trying to adapt. Well, I wouldn't say early, because there are people that are maybe not in our branch, I'm not sure, but there are businesses that are totally based on AI, websites that are made by AI. I mean, it's wonderful on one hand, and the other hand, you have to be very careful, I think, to not go overboard.
Of course. I think one interesting thing, just rebounding on what you were saying earlier, is that on the providing the right context and knowing how to prompt, the best heuristics that I have found is that, imagine if you were hiring a PhD level person who knows everything about music, knows everything about retail, knows everything about finance, knows everything about anything that you want. It's his first day of work, and he's sitting right next to you, and you tell him, "You're smart, now go and write this email." Even that person would fail, right? Like you need a little bit of hand holding in the early days, and just explaining, okay, so this is how we do things. This is what I like. This is how I want things to be done. It's just he needs an onboarding process.
Yeah, and it takes time also, because my own private ChatGPT actually learns about me every time. So I'm just surprised how much he knows already. She, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying he, but maybe we should say it.
Well, the thing is, I always try to be because people say it's not a person. Obviously, it's not a person. I truly believe. I heard it in a podcast from Trevor Noah about AI, and he said, "I always thank and I'm courteous towards ChatGPT because you never know what the future brings, and he or she might remember." I think it's a very interesting way of looking at things.
He's a very funny guy. Robbert, what's one piece of advice you'd give to other e-commerce leaders looking to use AI most effectively in their day-to-day?
Well, I think it's a. I mean, who am I to advise anybody who's a leader? But I think it has to. You have to try to keep it sort of human, which is contradictory because it's not human. But I would say don't go overboard and test everything out well before you go into stuff, because mistakes are easily made, and obviously when it's a specialized niche like we have, you see that ChatGPT makes mistakes. They still make mistakes when it comes to specs of something, or artists that are using or not using certain things. So mistakes will always be made, but I would say try to be moderate, and because I see a lot of people, they do drop shipping from China, and they have this whole website and the whole app. It looks like they have a big business when actually they're just selling something that they buy maybe from Temu or whoever. And I'm not against that, because I'm not saying that people shouldn't make money, but for me that goes a little bit too far. I mean, I know a customer who uses AI, for instance, to find out what is trending. So let's say a Chinese parasol on a hat, things like that nobody actually needs. And she finds that out, makes a list of 10 items, makes sure that she does the drop shipping, and puts it on her website and does the selling, and makes a lot of money from. But I'm not trying to be holy, but I would never do stuff like that, because I think it has to be based somehow in reality. For me, we have a store, we want to sell stuff, we want to give the people what they want, we listen to them, and I think for me that is very acceptable. Although some people would say you're using up all the wood resources in the world.
There's always someone who's not happy.
There's always somebody who's not happy. But I feel quite comfortable in doing it the way. But I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I'm also a user, and that's maybe also a piece of advice. Get the right people around you who really know what they're talking about, and then growing with that.
Oh, that's great advice. Thanks, and thank you for the note on keeping your intellectual integrity around what you're selling.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, that's very good. Let's switch gears a little bit. Looking ahead, what role do you see AI playing in your business in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, especially as it relates to going beyond what you're doing with AI today and going into the realm of helping with decision making, helping with actually executing things on your behalf, or as a leader of the company?
Well, I would say that automation is good, and optimization of processes is good. But I think especially when you're selling musical instruments, it's a very personal thing. We're not selling laptops. If I would be selling laptops or any other electronic part, or something that people do not have really a emotional connection with as much as a guitar, for instance, I would go crazy and do everything that I could, and probably sit at home and see the money coming in, hopefully. But for me, this is a personal thing. I've been in this business since I was 19. I am a fan of people making music. We get famous people here buying stuff, doing clinics, like Andy Timmons. We have Larry Carlton here. We have a lot of people here. Also Dutch bands that really are successful. This for me is so much more important. But I'm also 62. So if you would ask, let's say if I would be like 22 right now, maybe I would look at it differently, because my sons, they look at these things differently. They are more about, well, my youngest son is more about Lamborghinis and stuff like that. which I don't oppose, because if he will be as successful and be able to buy a Lamborghini, it's fine with me, but I don't need one. I love what I do. I still want to do this for a few years and optimize my business, and maybe then sell it, or have it go on under another leadership.
Right.
I don't have to really lose myself in AI to be successful.
For figuring out a nice segue into the next topic that I was going to touch on anyway, because I was going to ask you, where do you see Max Guitars in the next 5 years? And in that vision, like, do you think that there's going to be more AI or less AI involved in the running of the business?
Well, in the back office, yes, more AI. But I would say, again, coming back to my first statement, it has to be personal. And people are not stupid. So if you feed them AI generated stuff, when it's important, they will figure that out. But when it's not so important, I mean, if you need the specs of a certain guitar model or an amp model, these specs are the specs. So you can just have them found by AI. That's fine, for instance. Or if they need quicker service and AI can provide that, or if you have to do certain exports to other platforms, like we do, it would be stupid to do that personally. So it's a good metaphor is this, that people always ask me, is this guitar handmade? And the answer is always the same, because there is not a machine in the world where you put wood in on one end and the guitar comes out on the other end. So so there are certain processes done by computer routing. So I say, and that's what the manufacturer says to me, we use computing where it matters, where it has to be exact, where it has to be correct and always the same. And we use manual labor and knowledge and quality control and insight, history, all these things. We use that where that matters. So if the best guitar will be made partly by computer, so computer routing, for instance, or exact measurements on a piece of hardware. But how to lacquer a guitar, how to sand it, how to compose it, to use the right materials, that's always going to be a personal thing. So I think it has to be a mix. And I think in 3 to 5 years, we will not be so much different than we are now. Hopefully more efficient. So we use less manual labor now than we did, let's say, 5 years ago, simply because of we don't need so many. I mean, if I need to write an official letter and I'm not sure if what I wrote is totally correct, I use AI. I don't need to go to a lawyer or a notary. Obviously, when it's something really, really important, like changing the statutes of your company, which I recently did, then you need a notary. But you can do all the preparations and all the legal stuff you can just find through AI. So you would be stupid not to use that.
Absolutely, it's clearly the direction of travel. That's incredible. Thanks a lot, Robbert. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners find out more about you and Max Guitars?
Well, simply, if you go to the website, it's maxguitarstore.com. You will see more about us and the website. Obviously, if you go on Instagram, we have a very nice and sometimes funny Instagram page, which is simply Max Guitar Store, so you can find it easily. And yeah, drop me a line at robb@maxguitarstore.com, and I will try to answer any questions.
Fantastic. We'll include those into the show note as well. Thank you very much, Robbert.
Yeah, you're welcome.